Alrighty then, so we are live here. We've got card 5.12. Gonna play it out in the Phil Singer Assistant or FG Assistant app that I've been working on. Still trying to put it through its paces. So I'm using this instead of rolling on the tabletop. It's pretty similar, so should be a good time. Let me load up the event here. So, as you can see, tonight's matches are Red Berry will be taking on Gorgeous George in our opener. Then we've got Everett Marshall will be taking on Yvon Robert. George Hackenschmidt will try his hand at classy Freddie Blassie. Gus Sonnenberg will be in the ring with Steele. And in our main event, we've got the NWC World's Heavyweight Champion Farmer Burns defending his title against Thesz, who beat Buddy Rogers for the right to challenge for the title last month. So let's get to it. Let's run our first match, Red Berry versus Gorgeous George. And we are going to roll for initiative here. Is there anything that I should be aware of on these cards? I don't think there is. She is at ringside, so she's got a distractor rating of 6. That is Sherry Dupree. All right, let's roll some dice and get started here. And they tie on the lockup. Neither man can get the upper hand. And we're going to roll again. And it looks like Red Berry finally gets the upper hand in the second lockup. And he will start on level 2 offense because of the tied initial lockup. And out of the lockup, he executes a reverse short arm scissors on Gorgeous George. And George is down. And he's close enough to the ropes that he just kind of scurries out of the ring. But nothing really happens. He meets up with Sherry Dupree. Red Berry backs off. And George gets back in the ring, hopefully with a new plan. And Red Berry, on top of him as he gets back in the ring, grabs the head and hits the rope climb, headlock takeover on Gorgeous George. And George is being pinned here. The target is going to be 3. The roll is an 8. Red Berry really on the attack here, and Berry locks him in a reverse surfboard. And Gorgeous George is down once again. George is going to bail out of the ring just close enough to the ropes. And George starts to walk off. He's going to roll his count out here. And the target is 4. The roll is a 7. He is not counted out, so he thinks better about just kind of abandoning the match. Sherry Dupree talks him back into the ring. And Red Berry, still on the attack, slaps on that surfboard again as George gets back in the ring. Excuse me. Gorgeous George is hurt. And Red Berry moves on from that surfboard with an arm stretch and face stomp on Gorgeous George. And the Human Orchid is hurt. As Red Berry applies the reverse arm scissors on Gorgeous George. And those arm scissors are going to have George hurting. And he is not going to push him into the ropes. Instead, he's going to apply an overhand wrist lock on Gorgeous George. And George is dazed by the wrist lock. And Red Berry follows the wrist locks with some forearms to the chest. And that is going to hurt Gorgeous George. Wild Red Berry grabs him in the headlock and uses his head to help propel him up the turnbuckles, and he's able to flip him over with the rope climb headlock takeover. And that's going to hurt Gorgeous George. And once again, grabs the arm, stretches it out, and stomps the face of the Human Orchid. And this time George is ready for it as he is able to get out of the way. And George will take over on level 1 offense with a headlock takedown This is a choice B maneuver. So that's going to be level 2 headlock takedown. 7 plus or minus agility, which is -1, so on 6 or better. Or he's going to back him into the turnbuckle. I think he's going to try the turnbuckle. And so he backs Red Berry into the turnbuckle. And Gorgeous George able to get him there. And George with some forearm rakes across the face after he backs him into the turnbuckle. And they finally break, and Gorgeous George takes control of the match, trips him down, and is now applying a figure 4 leg lock on Wild Red Berry. Red Berry's hurt. And Gorgeous George moves into a hammer lock. This is a choice F maneuver. That's going to be a level 2 hammer lock on 5 or less, or a level 3 hammer lock on 8 or less. Obviously, we're going to go with the level 3. And on a roll of 6, he gets it. So Red Berry rolling on level 3, and that hammer lock going to hurt Red Berry. And Gorgeous George follows it up with a snap mare, and that's going to daze Wild Red Berry. And Gorgeous George slaps Red Berry right across the face, and then kind of prances and teases his hair. Red Berry not very thrilled with that. And Red Berry's dazed by the slap long enough that Gorgeous George can nail him with a big old drop kick. And Red Berry brushes the drop kick out of the way. George hits the mat, and Red Berry takes over, applying a full Nelson on Gorgeous George. George is not going to let him lock the fingers, and easily rolls out of the full Nelson attempt. And backs Red Berry into the ropes. And now Red Berry able to take control on the ropes there. And he will be rolling on level 2 with another one of the big rope climb head takeover or headlock takeovers that he's been using all match. And that's going to hurt Gorgeous George. And he again follows that up with the arm stretch and face stomp. Will that be enough? And George is hurt. And he tries applying the full Nelson again, and that's not going to work on Gorgeous George. And George has a Georgie pin. And he rakes the face of Red Berry with the Georgie pin. And Red Berry, he just gets mad and clubs Gorgeous George right in the jaw with a forearm shot. And Red Berry then applies the short arm scissors on Gorgeous George. And George is down. Red Berry firmly in control here. Grabs him up with a giant swing, a choice F maneuver. Let's see. It's going to be... we're going to use the level 3 version, which is going to work on rolls of 7 or better, or 7 or less. And with a roll of 8, it's unsuccessful. And so George cannot... or Red Berry can't apply the giant swing on Gorgeous George. And we've got a hammer lock from Gorgeous George. This is a choice F maneuver. He's definitely going to use the level 3 version of it, which is a power rating move. So it's going to work on 8 or lower. And George is rolling, not him. And that's going to work. And Red Berry's hurt. And now Gorgeous George applies the Gorgeous Grip on Wild Red Berry. Red Berry's hurt. And Gorgeous George with a snapmare. That snapmare dazes Red Berry. And Gorgeous George once again slaps him. And then goes to tease his hair and prance around the ring. And the slap was enough to get Red Berry dazed. And now George, after prancing around, sneaks up behind him and rakes the fingernails down the back of Wild Red Berry. And Red Berry screams in agony as he falls to the mat. He is definitely in pain. And now Gorgeous George applies the rolling hip locks on Wild Red Berry. This is a pinning finisher. It's a level 0. So the target is going to be 3 and the roll is a 12. So Wild Red Berry has no trouble kicking out of that. And Gorgeous George, death jump. And Redberry's got a C death jump rating, so why not go for it? And Wild Redberry caught with a big cross body block off the top rope from Gorgeous George. Barry's rolling his pin. Target is 4. Roll is a 4. And just like that, Wild Redberry is dispatched by the high-flying antics of Gorgeous George. So we're going to record the outcome of the match on card 5.12. And Gorgeous George beat Redberry with a flying cross body block. And let's see here. Barry would have an additional fatigue, so that's going to be a 2-star match. And Barry has 2. And George has 2. And there we go. So that was your opener. Gorgeous George defeats Wild Redberry with a flying crossbody block. And we're moving on to our second match. Everett Marshall against Yvon Robert. And I don't think there's anything on these cards that I need to be aware of either. There is not. So let's get going. And it looks like Yvon Robert are going to take the initial lockup here. And Robert with a gut wrench suplex on Everett Marshall. And that is going to work. They are equal in power, but Robert does have the agility advantage. So that gut wrench suplex is going to work on Everett Marshall. But Marshall able to break his fall and get up quickly and take Robert by surprise with a hammerlock. And Robert is hurt by that hammerlock. And Everett Marshall grabs him up, scoops him up with a body slam. And this is going to put Robert down. Robert's not going to leave the ring. And Everett Marshall going to club him with some forearm blows as Yvon Robert gets back to his feet. And Robert rolling his pin. And the target is 2. The roll is an 8. So 1 fatigue for Yvon Robert. And Everett Marshall applies short arm scissors on Yvon Robert. And Robert is hurt. Everett Marshall comes in with a crossface hammerlock. This is a choice E maneuver. We're going to use the power rating here, so it's going to be a level 2 move, and it's going to work on 8 or less. And with a roll of 9, Everett Marshall is not successful, and Yvon Robert takes control of the match with a hammerlock takedown. And Everett Marshall is hurt. And Yvon Robert with a spinning toe hold. This is a choice B maneuver. So turnbuckle is a B. Or he could try a level 2 move that's going to work on 5 or less. So we're going to go with the turnbuckle as Yvon Robert backs him into the turnbuckle. Still holding on to the leg after letting Marshall get up after that spinning toe hold. And Marshall can't take control in the turnbuckle. The referee finally breaks them up. And Yvon Robert, quick to re-establish control of the match with a big kick to the midsection on Everett Marshall. And Everett Marshall catches that kick to the midsection. And this time he backs Yvon Robert into the turnbuckle. And Robert in worse shape as Marshall just kind of shoves him back. Robert loses his balance and allows Everett Marshall to really take control here on level 3 offense here. Short arm scissors by Everett Marshall. And Robert down. He's not going to leave the ring. And now Everett Marshall on the attack here. Everett Marshall with the short arm scissors again on Yvon Robert. Robert's hurt. And Marshall lets him up, grabs a headlock, and throws a punch right into the side of the head of Yvon Robert. And Robert is going to counter that and roll on level 2. And a spinning toe hold from Yvon Robert. And this is going to be the turnbuckle chart again. So Robert lets up on the spinning toe hold. Marshall gets up, and Robert shoves him into the turnbuckle. And this time, Everett Marshall not able to get the upper hand into the turnbuckle. And Robert rolling on level 3 offense. And Robert grabs the rolling arm scissors on Everett Marshall. This is a level 3 finisher. So the target is going to be 5. The roll is a 7. And Yvon Robert continues his attack. Everett Marshall is in trouble. Death jump. He'll go for it. And Yvon Robert climbs up to the second rope and delivers a big overhand fist attack on Everett Marshall from the second rope. And Marshall is really in trouble here as Yvon Robert grabs a flying mare on Everett Marshall. Marshall's hurt. And Yvon Robert with the hammerlock takedown. Marshall is hurt again. Spinning toe hold. This is the choice B. This is going to be a turnbuckle move. And once again, they back into the turnbuckle. Once again, Yvon Robert able to maintain control in the turnbuckle. And he's going to roll on level 2. And Robert with a big shoulder charge as Marshall leaves the turnbuckle. And that's going to hurt Everett Marshall. And Yvon Robert kicks him right in the midsection. And that's going to double him over. And allow Yvon Robert to hit the gut-wrench suplex on Everett Marshall. And Everett Marshall once again braces himself well. He's back up to his feet quickly. And he is on the attack. Grabbing Yvon Robert with a crossface hammerlock. And this is a choice E maneuver. This is going to be a power move. It's going to work on 8 or less. And with a roll of 6, it is successful. So that crossface hammerlock applied on Yvon Robert, and Robert is hurt. And he's going to back Robert into the turnbuckle. And Everett Marshall able to maintain control and takes Robert down with a fireman's carry out of the turnbuckle. Robert is dazed by that fireman's carry. And he's backed into the ropes by Everett Marshall. And the referee calls for the clean break and moves both men to the middle. And now we're going to roll for initiative. Once again, and Everett Marshall with a 3. Yvon Robert with a 6. So Yvon Robert takes the second initiative roll here. And a spinning toe hold, choice B. This is going to be the turnbuckle roll again. And Yvon Robert maintains control in the turnbuckle. And Robert grabs a hammerlock takedown on Everett Marshall. Marshall's hurt. Oop. And Robert cranks that hammerlock takedown. And Marshall is hurt again. I am getting way too confused all of a sudden. And Yvon Robert transitions out of that hammerlock and puts him in the spinning toe hold. And once again, he lets him up from the toe hold and backs him into the turnbuckle. And this time, Everett Marshall able to take control in the turnbuckle. And he's rolling on level 2 offense. Scoops up Yvon Robert and body slams him to the mat. Robert is hurt. And Everett Marshall with another big body slam. Hurting Yvon Robert. And Robert taken over with a fireman's carry. And Marshall follows up the fireman's carry with the grinding headlock. And Yvon Robert is hurt. And Marshall really wrenching that grinding headlock now. And Robert still hurt. And they're back to their feet, but Everett Marshall still has the headlock. And he delivers a punch right to the head of Yvon Robert. And Robert blocks that punch and slips his head out. And he is in control now, scooping up Everett Marshall and power slamming him to the mat. And Everett Marshall is hurt. And Robert waits for him to get up and then blasts him with a shoulder charge. And that shoulder charge puts Marshall back down on the mat. And Yvon Robert in control here. Death jump. He's not going to hit the death jump this time. Instead, he's going to scoop Marshall up with a big power slam again. And he puts Everett Marshall down on the mat. Marshall's not going to leave the ring, even though he's got the option to. And instead, Yvon Robert going to apply a figure 4 arm scissors on Everett Marshall. and Marshall is hurt. Yvon Robert waits for him to get back to his feet and blasts him with a shoulder charge again. And that's going to hurt Everett Marshall. And another big shoulder charge from Yvon Robert. And Marshall out of the way of this one. And grabs the hammerlock on Yvon Robert after moving out of the way of the shoulder charge. And Robert is hurt. Now Everett Marshall in control. Crossface hammerlock, choice E. I think he's going to try it. The level 3, it's going to work on 5 or less. And with a roll of 6, he is just barely not able to get that hammerlock. That crossface hammerlock on Yvon Robert. And Robert takes over with a big kick to the midsection. And Everett Marshall catches the kick. And with a go-behind waistlock takedown attempt on Yvon Robert. He's not able to get it. Robert has the -3 agility. So he's got the agility advantage. And Robert scoops him up and power slams him to the mat. And this is a pinning attempt. Target is 3. Roll is a 9. So another fatigue token for Everett Marshall as Yvon Robert on the attack with a figure 4 arm scissor on Everett Marshall. And Marshall's hurt. And another big hammerlock takedown on Everett Marshall by Yvon Robert. And Marshall once again hurt. And he gets him back up to his feet and kicks him in the midsection. And that's going to double over Everett Marshall as he grabs him up with a spinning toe hold. And this is the choice B. We're gonna try for the level 2 move instead of the turnbuckle this time, just to mix things up. So this is going to work on rolls of 5 or less. Let's see if he can get it. And with a roll of 8, he is unsuccessful, and Everett Marshall takes over, grabbing a headlock and punching Robert right in the straight square in the jaw. And that's going to hurt Yvon Robert as Everett Marshall. Man, Yvon and Everett are hard to say back to back. Everett Marshall grabs a grinding headlock on Yvon Robert. And Robert is dazed. Everett Marshall backs him into the ropes. And off of the ropes they come, and Marshall is still in control. And he reapplies the grinding headlock. And Robert is hurt. Everett Marshall now with that cross-face hammerlock. This is the choice E. He's going to try for the agility one, the level 3 move. This is going to work on 5 or less. And with a roll of 9, he is unsuccessful. We're going to take the first one. I clicked that twice. Spinning toe hold choice B is going to back him into the turnbuckle. The opponent rolls on level 3 offense here, so that would be Yvon Robert continuing with control in the turnbuckle. And he hits a flying mare on Everett Marshall. Now he's dazed. And Yvon Robert with an open hand strike. And that's going to daze Everett Marshall. And he's going to back him into the ropes. And look at that. Backing him into the ropes. And Everett Marshall able to cradle Yvon Robert. And he's got a pinning attempt here. And the target is 3. The roll is a 9, so the pin is unsuccessful. But another fatigue token for Yvon Robert. And Everett Marshall continues his attack now with a short arm scissors. And that's going to hurt Yvon Robert. Grinding headlock. And Robert is hurt. And from the headlock, he attempts a fireman's carry on Yvon Robert. Robert able to kind of scoot out of the fireman's carry onto his feet. And now he is in control of the match with a big gut-wrench suplex on Everett Marshall. Marshall's hurt. And now Yvon Robert with a big body slam. That's going to hurt Everett Marshall as Yvon Robert kicks him in the midsection. And Marshall is dazed. And we've got an arm breaker. This is a power maneuver. And they are even on power, so that is going to work. So Everett Marshall avoids the arm breaker. He just couldn't power him into the arm breaker. So Everett Marshall in control now with a hammerlock. And Yvon Robert manages to avoid the hammerlock and grab him up with a gut wrench suplex. And that's going to daze Everett Marshall. And now a knee breaker from Yvon Robert, choice C. This is going to be a level 2 move on 6 or better. And with a roll of 5, it is successful. And Everett Marshall blocks it anyway and takes control of the match on level 1. He attempts a go-behind waistlock takedown on Yvon Robert, but Robert is too agile and is able to counter that, scoop up Everett Marshall and power slam him to the mat, and that's going to hurt Everett Marshall. Yvon Robert grabs a spinning toe hold, and we're going to back him into the turnbuckle. And Marshall can't take control, and Robert is rolling on level 2 out of the turnbuckle. And with a hammerlock takedown, Yvon Robert has hurt Everett Marshall. And let's go with a hammerlock and power slams Everett Marshall to the mat. Marshall's hurt. And there's another big shoulder charge from Yvon Robert onto Everett Marshall. Marshall moves out of the way and applies a hammerlock as Robert is off balance. And now Robert is hurt. And Everett Marshall scoops him up and plants Yvon Robert on the mat with a body slam. That's going to hurt Yvon Robert. And Everett Marshall now with a headlock and punch. And Robert took that punch square on the chin, and he is hurt. And Marshall doesn't let go of that headlock, just starts grinding it in. And Robert is hurt. And delivers another punch to the jaw of Yvon Robert. Everett Marshall playing a little dirty here, but Yvon Robert was ready for that one and blocks the punch. And he's rolling on level 2. And now Yvon Robert with a kick to the midsection. And Everett Marshall is hurt by that kick. And another big kick to the midsection. And this time, Everett Marshall catches the kick and is able to counter. Scoops him into a hammerlock here. And Yvon Robert able to spin out of that hammerlock attempt. And tries to kick him right back in the midsection. And Everett Marshall is dazed by that kick to the midsection. And Yvon Robert with a knee breaker on Everett Marshall. This is going to be a choice C maneuver. I think we're going to go for the level 2 move. That's going to work on 6 or less. And with a roll of 7, it is unsuccessful. So Everett Marshall with a body slam on Yvon Robert. And Robert is hurt. And Marshall scoops him up again with that big body slam. Plants him one more time, and Robert is still hurt. Now Everett Marshall takes him over with a fireman's carry, but Yvon Robert able to kind of scoot his way out again and take control of the fight with a big gut wrench suplex on Yvon Robert. And that suplex hurts hurts Everett Marshall. And Yvon Robert grabs him with a hammerlock and takes him back to the mat. And Marshall is hurt. And a big body slam by Yvon Robert. And Marshall out the back door there as Yvon Robert tries to pick him up. And Marshall just scoots out the back. And grabs a crossface hammerlock. Choice E. This is going to do the power rating, so 8 or less. And with a roll of 3, he is successful, and it's a level 2 crossface hammerlock. And Yvon Robert is able to break the hold and take control with a big roundhouse. And that's going to daze Everett Marshall. And Robert nails him with an open hand strike. And Everett Marshall able to parry that open hand strike with an armbar. Oop, not pin. Rolling one. Let me wait for Google to tell me that it's got a reminder.
For Carl.
Thanks, Google. I already know what that is. All right. So we've got a dazed 1 on Yvon Robert from that armbar. And now he attempts to go behind waistlock takedown. This is an agility move, so that is not going to work. And Yvon Robert are going to scoop him up and power slam him to the mat again. This is going to be a pinfall. As Robert makes the cover after the power slam. Target is 4. The roll is a 9. So another fatigue token for Everett Marshall. And Yvon Robert with a figure 4 arm scissors on Everett Marshall. And Marshall is hurt. Yvon Robert with a kick to the midsection. And Everett Marshall is able to catch the kick. And he scoops him up into a body slam, plants Yvon Robert on the mat. Robert is hurt. Everett Marshall grabs a grinding headlock. Robert able to slip his head out and attempt a shoulder charge on Everett Marshall. Everett Marshall is hurt by the shoulder charge, and so Robert goes into it a second time. And Everett Marshall is hit with it a second time, but it doesn't have the same effect as he's just dazed now. Here is the knee breaker. This is going to be 6 or less. And he is unsuccessful, so Everett Marshall takes control again with a big body slam on Yvon Robert. Now Robert rolling his pin. Target is 4. The roll is a 7. And Everett Marshall grabs a short arm scissors on Yvon Robert. Robert is hurt. And Marshall with a big body slam again. And that's going to hurt Yvon Robert. And here's the crossface hammerlock. We're going to go for the power rating. This is a level 2 move. It's going to work on 8 or less. And with a roll of 5, it is successful. And that's going to hurt Yvon Robert. And now Everett Marshall nails another body slam. And that's going to hurt Robert. And 8 or less again. And that's successful. Except that Robert is able to break the hold. The crossface hammerlock is not going to work. And Robert scoops him up with another big power slam. Plants him to the mat. And another pinfall attempt. As Robert covers Marshall. Target is 5. The roll is a 6. And so Everett Marshall with another fatigue token. And Yvon Robert in control now. Big death jump. And as Robert climbs to the second rope, comes off with an axe handle. And he is in control as that solidly lands on Everett Marshall. And that's it. Rolling arm scissors from Yvon Robert. This has got to do it. Target is going to be 9 as this is a +3 finisher. And the roll is a 9. So just like that, Yvon Robert coaxing the submission out of Everett Marshall with the rolling arm scissors. So we'll add a fatigue here for the rolling arm scissors and end the match. And this was Yvon Robert beat Everett Marshall with the rolling arm scissors. And with 8 fatigue tokens, that's a 4-star match. And we've got Marshall with 5 and Robert with 3. This cough just will not go away. I've had this cough since October. It's obnoxious. All right. So, with that, we have seen Yvon Robert take Everett Marshall, and we're on to our third match, which will pit George Hackenschmidt against Freddie Blassie. And we are off. Let's see who wins the initiative roll. Hackenschmidt with a 10, Blassie with an 8. So it's Hackenschmidt taking the initial lockup. And Hackenschmidt attempts a front chancery. This is an agility, and that's going to work because they're even in agility. And Blassie is dazed by that front chancery. And Hackenschmidt backs Blassie into the turnbuckle. And Blassie able to take control in the turnbuckle by raking the eyes of George Hackenschmidt. And Blassie is in control now. Blassie slams his head into the turnbuckle. Hackenschmidt was not expecting that sort of unsportsmanlike behavior from his opponent, and Hackenschmidt is dazed. And Blassie grabs a neck wrencher on George Hackenschmidt. Hackenschmidt dazed still. And Blassie gets a little bit of distance and a running kick to the chest. This is an agility move, and that is going to work. And Hackenschmidt catches the kick. And grabs a headlock and throws Blassie over. And Blassie is dazed now. And some forearm uppercuts by George Hackenschmidt. Those are going to work. With a -3 power, he is quite a bit more powerful than classy Freddie Blassie. And Blassie's hurt by those forearm uppercuts. Hackenschmidt with a big waistlock suplex on the classy one. And Blassie is hurt. And now Hackenschmidt with a side suplex. And that's going to hurt classy Freddie Blassie. And Hackenschmidt with a single leg pickup and slam. This is going to put Freddie Blassie down. And Hackenschmidt is solidly in control. Blassie in trouble here as Hackenschmidt locks on a twisting heel hook. And that heel hook is going to hurt Blassie as he gets to the ropes and forces a break. And now Hackenschmidt waits for him to get up, grabs him by the waist, and suplexes him over. And now Blassie's rolling his pin. This is a target of 1, so he can't really be pinned here, but we're going to roll it anyway. And the roll is a 9, so Blassie kicks out with ease. But he gets a fatigue token. And now Hackenschmidt grabs the twisting heel hook again. And he's got Blassie in trouble. Blassie is hurt by George Hackenschmidt, who once again grabs him by the waist as he gets back up and suplexes him over. And Blassie's hurt. And Hackenschmidt applies the half Nelson. And this is a choice D maneuver for a half Nelson suplex. Level 3 half Nelson suplex. That's going to work on 7 or better. We're going to try it. And with a roll of 6, it is successful. And Blassie is down after that half Nelson suplex. And a level 3 offensive attack here by George Hackenschmidt as he grabs a hammerlock on classy Freddie Blassie. Blassie not close enough to the ropes to get a break here. He's going to have to try to force himself out of it. And the target is going to be 2. The roll is an 8, so Blassie is successful. He doesn't submit, but he earns a fatigue token. And now he's still got that hammerlock applied. Hackenschmidt still wrenching it. And Blassie in trouble here as he's got to roll his pin again. Target is 3, roll is 4. So Blassie once again not submitting, but is in danger here as Hackenschmidt could throw Blassie out of the ring. He's not going to do that. And Hackenschmidt with a side suplex on classy Freddie Blassie. And Blassie's hurt. And he's got that half Nelson suplex again. Roll of 7 or better for a level 3 move. And with a roll of 4, he is successful. And Blassie once again down after that half Nelson suplex. And George Hackenschmidt with the Russian bear hug. And this has a roll once for submission. If unsuccessful, add 1 to the opponent's pin rating and then roll for pin. So it's a +1 maneuver. So target is going to be 5 on the submission. And with a roll of 7, that is not successful. And now the target is 5. And the roll is a 6, and that is unsuccessful. And I talked to, I can't remember if it was Chad or Corey about this mechanic. He said you only add the fatigue there when in the middle when it tells you don't add fatigue after the pin. So we're just going to add the 1 fatigue. And George Hackenschmidt is in control of the match. This time he is going to toss Blassie out of the ring. And Blassie able to get the upper hand out of the ring and smacks Hackenschmidt into the ring apron. And Hackenschmidt goes to the mat, or goes to the ground, I guess, not really to the mat. And he is rolling his count out. The target is going to be 2. The roll is a 9, so Hackenschmidt not counted out, but as he rolls back into the ring, kind of woozy, Blassie is able to take over with a big Southern neckbreaker. This is a +3 finisher. So the target is going to be 6. And the roll is a 4. And so just like that, after blasting Hackenschmidt off the ring apron and then hitting the Southern neckbreaker as he got back in the ring, classy Freddie Blassie is your winner. And we're going to end this one and record the results here. Freddie Blassie coming from behind with a Southern neckbreaker. Oops, helps if I spell that right. And 6 fatigue, so that's going to be a 3-star match. And Hackenschmidt had 2. And Blassie had 4. So your winner, classy Freddie Blassie, after a Southern neckbreaker there. And that was a surprising I don't know whether it was an upset necessarily, but Hackenschmidt had definitely been in control of that match, so was not expecting Blassie to come back and just win it with one move. But that's the way the cards roll sometimes. Neil Lau says he finished his card. He was talking to me about rolling a card while I was he was watching me do this, so I'm glad that you finished. How did the I guess it would have been the Fabulous Ones with Jim Cornette, and they were taking on the Mongols. That was his big match. How'd that go for you? All right, so we're on to our next match here. Gus Sonnenberg is going to be facing Ray Steele. And both of these guys have been out of action for a little while. No injuries or anything, just kind of out of action. And Gus Sonnenberg has a asterisk on his flying tackle if it comes up. And Ray Steele has nothing to speak of. So let's roll for initiative here. And it looks like Ray Steele is going to take the lockup. And Steele grabs him with a body slam. And this is a power move, and Sonnenberg has the power, so Steele is not going to be able to get him up. Sonnenberg going to back him into the turnbuckle. And Sonnenberg able to keep control in the buckle. As they break, Sonnenberg takes control of the match and backs him into the turnbuckle again. And Steele is backed into the buckle, can't really get the upper hand. Sonnenberg lets him out, but is quick to take control again. And Sonnenberg with a body slam. This is a choice C maneuver. Level 2 move, they're going to work on 6 or better. And with a roll of 6, it is successful. So he body slams Steele to the mat. Steele is dazed. And, oh, I meant to roll on Sonnenberg, not on Steele. And so Sonnenberg grabs a wrist lock on Ray Steele. Neil Lau says they won. Good for them. I mean, the Mongols are not exactly a top-tier team, so good opener, good debut for the Fabulous Ones. I'm glad they won. Wrist lock from Sonnenberg, and Steele is hurt. And now Sonnenberg with a crotch ride on Ray Steele. And Steele is dazed. And now a wrist lock by Gus Sonnenberg. And Steele taken down to the mat with that wrist lock. And there it is. Gus Sonnenberg hits the flying tackle. Roll 2d6 on doubles. Sonnenberg mistimes the tackle and sails out of the ring. Roll pin for count out. If no count out, opponent takes over on level 2 defense. On rolls of 7, momentum carries the opponent out of the ring. The opponent rolls count out. So let's roll 2 dice here. And with a roll of 5, and it's not doubles, it's just a normal finisher. So he nails him with a flying tackle and goes for the cover. And this is going to be a +2 finisher, so the target is going to be 4. And the roll is a 3. It's just like that. Ray Steele is defeated with a flying tackle by Gus Sonnenberg. And Sonnenberg beat Steele with a flying tackle. And I'm going to call that a dud. That was just not a fantastic match. And Steele ended up with 1 fatigue token, and Sonnenberg had none. So we are on to our main event for the evening, Farmer Burns versus Thesz. And Thesz, he beat Buddy Rogers last month for the right to challenge Farmer Burns. I believe this is his first title shot. So Thesz going for the title against Farmer Burns. Farmer Burns has the neck thing, so no neck moves will work on Farmer Burns. Thesz does have a hurt 2 with an asterisk that allows him to hit the Greco-Roman backdrop on defense, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. And let's roll for initiative. Burns with a 7. Thesz with a 7. So they lock up, and they drop the lockup and stare each other down before locking up again. Burns with a 6, Thesz with a 3. So that Farmer Burns going to take it on level 2 offense and back Thesz into the ropes immediately. And Thesz not able to get control on the ropes here as Farmer Burns maintains. And Burns with a flying mare on Thesz. This is a choice D maneuver. So 7 or less for a level 3 flying mare. And with a roll of 7, he is successful. Thesz rolling on level 3. Thesz is hurt by the flying mare. And once again, 7 or less. And with a roll of 8 this time, Thesz able to roll through with the flying mare and get back to his feet before Burns even knows what's going on. Thesz on the attack. Thesz with a double leg pickup to slam on Farmer Burns. Burns able to counter that and take control of the fight. Burns with a waistlock slam on Thesz, but Thesz has the power, so he's not able to power Burns, or Burns is not able to power Thesz up, and Thesz takes control. Thesz punches Burns right in the ribs, and that's going to hurt Farmer Burns. And he's going to punch him again. And Farmer Burns is ready for that one, and he catches the fist of Thesz and takes control of the match with an overhead throw. This is a choice F maneuver. We're going to go for, it's going to be 5 or less here. And with a roll of 3, he is successful. So Thesz overhead thrown by Farmer Burns, and Thesz is down. Thesz is not going to leave the ring. But Farmer Burns is going to toss him from the ring anyway. And Thesz grabs Farmer Burns and puts him right into the ring apron, and then whips him into the guardrail, and the referee is mad. The referee is forcing a disqualification roll here, and the target is 4, and the roll is a 7, so no disqualification happens for Thesz. Thesz rolls Burns back into the ring, and is on the attack. Thesz with a Thesz press on Farmer Burns. And this is a level 2 finisher, so the target is going to be 4, and the roll is a 7. And Thesz on the attack now. Farmer Burns in trouble. Step over toe hold face lock on Farmer Burns, commonly known as the STF these days. And Farmer Burns is down. Farmer Burns is a fighting champion. He's not going to leave the ring. And Thesz grabs him up, Greco-Roman backdrop. Maybe he should have left the ring. And this is a level 2 finisher, so the target is going to be 5. The roll is a 7. And Burns definitely in trouble now as Thesz grabs him up with another Greco-Roman backdrop. The target is going to be 6. The roll is a 6. And just like that, Thesz has defeated Farmer Burns and is the new NWC World's Heavyweight Champion. So Farmer Burns gets another fatigue token added. We're going to end the match. Yes, I want to record the outcome of the match. Thesz beat Farmer Burns. There was a title change. Greco-Roman backdrop. And I'm going to give it 1 star for a title change, and then 1.5 for the 3 fatigue. So 2.5 star match. And I'm actually going to say a series of Greco-Roman backdrops, since he hit him with 2 in a row. So we'll make a note of that. And Burns has 3. Thesz has 1. And Thesz is your new champion here. Let's go back to the main menu and check the title history here. Lou Thesz beats Farmer Burns. Burns was the champion for 244 days. Won defense against his friend Tom Jenkins before Lou Thesz was able to unseat him and take the title. In a very excellent matchup. Let's run down the card again here, just to kind of cap off the evening. So card 5.12, held December 1st of year 5. Red Berry and Gorgeous George matched up, and Gorgeous George was able to beat Red Berry with a flying crossbody block. Everett Marshall faced off against Yvon Robert, and Robert was successful with a rolling arm scissors. George Hackenschmidt was up against Freddie Blassie next, and Blassie able to kind of come from behind and take the match with a southern neckbreaker out of nowhere on George Hackenschmidt. Gus Sonnenberg took on Ray Steele next, and Sonnenberg was able to beat Steele with a flying tackle in a pretty boring, quick match. And then in our main event for the NWC World's Heavyweight title, Farmer Burns took on Lou Thesz, and Lou Thesz was able to unseat the champion Burns with a series of Greco-Roman backdrops. And this marks Thesz's first reign as world champion. So Thesz is the champion against, I don't know who he's going to face first. My guess would be probably Ed Lewis. Lewis is still kind of pissed off that he didn't get a title shot against Farmer Burns, even though he was the champion that Burns beat. So, traditionally you get a rematch. Burns was on record as having turned down a match against Lewis and instead taking a match against his friend Tom Jenkins. And that upset Lewis. So Lewis is probably going to petition Thesz, who he is friends with, for a title match. So it would make sense and kind of bring that story full circle if Thesz was to grant his friend Ed Lewis a title match. But we'll see what happens. Let's go into the rankings here since we're at the end of a year. We've got William Muldoon. Let's filter out the women and the junior heavyweights for now. So in the men's heavyweight division, we've got Ed Lewis sitting at the top here, 15-5 for the total. Let's just look at year 5. Filter the rankings. So for year 5 in the men's heavyweight division, Lou Thesz is on top, 5-1. Freddie Blassie is 4-0. Jim Londos is 3-0. Bull Curry is 3-1. Farmer Burns went 3-2. Wild Bill Longson is 2-0. Maurice Tilley 2-0. Yvon Robert 2-0. So definitely some action, and Lou Thesz really climbed the ranks in year 5 there. And now let's check on and we'll still exclude the women, but we only want junior heavyweights. And in the junior heavyweight division for year 5, Gory Guerrero went 3-0, as well as William Muldoon, the junior heavyweight champion, 3-0. He has been undefeated for 4 or 5 years now. He's going on his 5th year as champion. So William Muldoon, basically unbeatable. Billy Varga, 3-1. Danny McShane, 2-2. Old-timer Evan Lewis, 1-0 last year. Henry Erslinger is the king of losing. He is 0-4 in year 5. He's basically everybody's first opponent, and he did not do very well. So my guess would be that William Muldoon will see Gory Guerrero sometime in year 6 here. And that will be a matchup to be on the lookout for. And that's going to do it for us for year 5 and for this stream. So thank you for joining me. I will be back probably next weekend to kick off year 6 with some NWC action. All right, well, thank you all and have a good night.